मनोपिष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूप कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरु श्रीयुतापदगमनं श्रीगुरुन् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं सागरजातं सहगण रघुनाथान्वितं तं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादान् सहगण श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च नमो विष्णुपदाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांत स्वामिनिति नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वती देवी गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे नमो महावदन्याय कृष्ण प्रेम प्रदायते कृष्णाय कृष्ण चैतन्य नामिने गौरत्विषे नमः हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधो दीनबंधो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमोस्तुते तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरि कल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्येव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासदि गौरभक्तवृंद हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 Hare Krishna. So today we are taking a topic from Bhagavad Gita, which we discussed once in the Q&A group, but we'll elaborate it here. The very famous verse in the Gita, Jitatmana prashantasya paramatma samahitah shitoshna sukha dukkeshu tata manapamana yoga. Please see the translation. For one who has conquered the mind, the super soul is already achieved. For he has attained tranquility. To such a man, happiness and distress, heat and cold, honor and dishonor are all the same. I mean, if you look carefully at this verse, what it says is basically saying that if your mind is peaceful, prashanta, then you have reached the super soul, it says. Okay, so if somebody is able to, be equipoised during happiness, distress, etc., then one has achieved the Paramatma. That's what actually Prabhupada translates here. It's very interesting because we generally, achieving the Paramatma is like a purpose of life. And, the ability to conquer the mind is a process. That is life itself, how you live life. So the way one lives life, if one lives life as per the yogic paddhati, which Krishna talks about in the Gita, Krishna is essentially saying here that you have achieved the super soul. So, there are these two things which we once discussed, process and purpose. As such, both are important without a doubt. Purpose is the goal, the lakshya of life, and process is how we lead our life. We generally see the 6th chapter Bhagavad Gita is entirely about the process. Krishna is talking about the yoga paddhati, which is the process of life. And at the end, he brings himself by saying that yoginam api sarvesha madhyate anantaratmanam shraddhavan bhajate yamam samyuktatamam. That means among all the yogis, one who is constantly focused on me, he is the topmost. Right. So I was just recently speaking to one brahmachari friend. Okay, he is from some place in Karnataka. He's a Lingayat by his own background. So he was saying that from his childhood, his father had made him given a very tough routine to him and his brothers and sister and the entire family. He said getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning, sleeping early, not eating here and there. And it seems during the vacations, his father would send him to a Lingayat ashram, to some guru. Okay. And under that guru's strict regiment, the boys had to live life. So he says that later when he came to voice and he heard the Krishna conscious philosophy, he said there was never a problem in following anything because he said lifestyle was already very conducive. He had a habit of getting up early. He had a habit of, being careful in associating with opposite sex, eating only home cooked food. So many aspects of his life were extremely, the process was very, very regulated. It was as per 6th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, somehow or the other. So he says that when he came, when he heard the Krishna conscious philosophy, only the purpose had to change. So previously, his purpose, the Lingayat purpose, we know it is kind of, there is an impersonal understanding of the absolute and Shiva, and there are some misunderstandings in terms of purpose over there. But he said when he heard the purpose of life as per the devotees of Hare Krishna, he didn't find any problem at all taking it, because life was very, very smooth before. Okay, so this basically tells us that while both are important, process and purpose, because without purpose, if the process is there and somebody is having an impersonal understanding or a very hodgepodge understanding, then there is no use. Certainly, that part is agreed. But when the process is not there in someone's life, when that discipline of yoga is not there, then it becomes very difficult to practice anything. He may know theoretically something, but he will always be struggling. So on the other hand, sometimes we find devotees who have too much struggles from different in terms of lifestyle, because just like many times we have given the example, in the Western world, in the Hare Krishna movement, a lot of people have been unable to continue to practice, not because they were not clear about the purpose of life, that they were very clear about, but there was not a process of yoga in their life. That regulation itself was not there, and from childhood. So that became very, very difficult to take it up. Okay, so if you remember, I was giving that example also, that of that film star Akshay Kumar, who gave an interview where he says that he doesn't eat anything after 6 o'clock, doesn't party too much. Even after 6 o'clock, he has to eat anything. He will only drink soup. So he was saying all this, of course. So his process of life is quite regulated, it seems. But the purpose is completely off track. He's doing all this just so that he can remain young and dance with the young actresses in movie. So the purpose is off track, but the process is there. If somebody would give him a Bhagavad Gita and teach him what is the purpose of life, for him to change is very easy, because he just has to change. Purpose is like direction of your car. You can change it actually pretty easy once you're convinced, and then life becomes quite smooth. Now, when we talk about this process, see, this process is sadhana. Now, again, see, in our devotee terminology, we understand sadhana to be limited to, for example, chanting of 16 rounds, reading Bhagavatam, the what we call as the pure adhyatma. That is the sadhana we know of. But actually, the process of yoga, if you see carefully in the Gita, it is all about, for example, sleeping early is extremely important in yoga. Krishna says that one who sleeps too much or sleeps too little, or eats too much or eats too little, can never be a yogi. So that is also actually part of sadhana only. The lifestyle is also treated as part of sadhana. It's not only the adhyatmic part which is like sadhana. This is one thing about process. Second thing about process, please remember, is how we deal with people around. That is also part of process only, because that is life. Just like if we take from the Ramayana, we see that in the Ramayana, Valmiki basically talks so much about the story of Lord Ram in a way which is very, very, it's something you can apply in your day-to-day life as well. So just like we just take one or two examples we will take. When Ram was in the forest for 14 years, constantly he keeps telling Sita and Lakshman that after 14 years we have to exactly go back, because Bharat has said he will not even wait for 1 minute after 14 years. He will enter fire and so on. But then when the 14 years are over and Ram is coming back to Ayodhya, he wants a confirmation that he wants a confirmation from Bharata. So we know that when he comes back to Bharadwaja's ashram, Ram is asking the Rishi Bharadwaja, how is Bharata? And the Rishi understands very clearly why Ram is asking. So he says that, oh, Bharat is very eagerly waiting for you. And, he will not wait too much. You have to immediately go there. Then we know that Ram tells Hanuman that you go and tell Bharat and see the body language. Just tell him that Ram is coming and see the body language. If there is any sense of regret that, hey, why is this Ram coming back, then I will immediately go back to the forest and do tapasya. And there Ram says one thing very interesting. He says it is very natural for someone who is doing politics to become attached to it. So the point here is Lord Ram in his relation and dealing with the world, he knows he's very realistic of how to operate in the world. Very, very realistic. He understands. It's a simple point, right? Anyone who does anything gets attached to that position. Ram is saying it's likely, of course, Bharat has all good intentions, but since 14 years he's ruling, it's likely that he's got attached to ruling the kingdom. So I think we should still give him the option of continuing to rule. And I should not simply bargain and say that I want this back. So when we talk about process of life, it is not just about our schedule or something. It's also about how we deal with the people around us. That is all part of the process only. That is uh, because when that is done correctly, okay, then there are no unnecessary misunderstandings. And your purpose can be easily served. There are no botherations that come because of friction between people. Krishna also does that. If you see with Krishna, he when the war is over, he tells the Pandavas that we should go and beg forgiveness from Dhritarashtra and Gandhari. If you think about it carefully, it is why should they even do that, right? Why should they go and beg forgiveness? Right? Krishna felt no. See, this is a relationship we have with them. They are our the Pandavas, father's elder brother and wife, and something has happened in their life. We should go and talk to them. We cannot simply just try to escape thinking that it is their own mistake. They raised their sons in such a obnoxious manner, which is why all this happened. So we have nothing to give and take with this. If you see that example also, Krishna is showing there how to deal with people, even in a very difficult circumstance. I'm sure most of us, if you think carefully, if you were put in such a situation, we would simply try to escape. We would say that, Arey, why you want to even go and meet this person? Let's just do our own thing. Let's not even go and meet them. But Krishna says that no, we should go and meet. We should go and we should actually talk. So when we say process of life, it is not just about our daily dinacharya or schedule, which is of course very very important. But beyond that, it is about everything. How you live, how you talk to people, how you eat. Everything is part of that. And when such a process is followed, then there are no unnecessary botherations that come in the way of one's path towards God as well, right? Because one is not disturbed. So just like another reason why increasingly in the world people find it difficult to uh, follow the purpose of Bhagavad Gita, which is to become a devotee, etc., is also because of the relationships with their family, etc., not being good, right? There are so many quarrels, there are so many misunderstandings. So they are not actually following the right process of dealing with their near and dear ones. It's because we see that in counseling, most of the time when people come for counseling, it's either about their schedule or their lifestyle, or it is about dealings with their family members, with their husband, with their parents, etc. When any of these go wrong, they find it they find it a botheration in their spiritual life, and then they want some advice on how to rectify that. So that's why if someone is having a good process, knowing exactly how to live in this world, and then the purpose comes, then it is extremely easy to align with that purpose. And without much difficulty, without much botheration, one can very quickly advance. And our scriptures, being very realistic, talk about it always. So just like if you again go back to Ramayana, one may say the ultimate purpose of Ramayana is to teach you how to love Lord Ram. Agreed, certainly. But at the same time, if you see the how much of human psychology is there in our scriptures, just like we'll take another one or two examples. Like when Hanuman, when he comes to Lanka, when he is searching Mother Sita, at that point of time, when he sees Sita, Valmiki Ramayana explains that Hanuman is thinking, how should I talk to her? If I talk in Sanskrit, she may actually think that this is Ravan only come. So I think I should talk in Awadh Bhasha. Awadh is the language of Ayodhya. If I talk in Awadh Bhasha, then she will actually accept me, etc. So he starts talking like that, Hanumanji. And even in another episode, Hanumanji, again, if you see our heroes also in our Shastra, they're very, very realistic. Hanumanji, when he doesn't find Sita after initial search, he feels I'll better commit suicide. I don't even want to live. All those thoughts also come to him. Somebody may say, "Are in such a great person's life, how such thought can come?" No, but that is life actually. It's very natural for somebody to feel like that. I'll come back to this point a little later. But talking about Hanuman's sensitivity in dealing with Sita, or even Lakshman's response. Now, again, if you see, there's another story in the Ramayana where when Ram decides to go to the forest for 14 years, Lakshman comes to him and he tells him that, hey, look, you should, Ram tells Lakshman actually that this is all Deva because Kaikeyi loves me, but somehow she is hell bent on sending me to the forest. So this is all God's will. Lakshman's response is, no, don't rely on all this Deva. You become weak by relying on it. Don't give a wrong example to our subjects, he says, by calling this God's will. People will call anything God's will and not endeavor only properly. If you see the conversation, it is so real. That's how life is to be, right? It's so real, he says, Lakshman says. He doesn't say that. And Ram also doesn't negate his arguments. He says he accepts it. He says, okay, all that may be, but still I want to follow my father's word. So I'm going to the forest. He says like that. Okay. So in this way, you can, if you carefully see the process of life, that is how to deal with situations, how to live. This is actually how you live life. And when that is carefully followed, and then you understand the purpose of Krishna consciousness, then one very easily can transcend, can move without much botheration to oneself or others. So this is one point which I want to say. Also, when the process is very real, so also even our scriptures. So sometimes people say that we should never talk about, or we give examples, right? How scriptures encourage people in their day-to-day life, which some devotees sometimes feel, or even I think now also there was one post which I want to put on our group, right, about something in one of the Puranas which talks about how to live life. So this is to be encouraged actually. One shouldn't feel that such quotes are not to be emphasized too much, or we shouldn't think about our scriptures and our process to be only transcendental and have nothing to give and take with the world. Right. So I'll just give one example, a very interesting example. So there was this very famous police inspector in Maharashtra, was from Arvind Inamdar. So it is said that, this is an example to show how people can get inspired by our scriptures. So there was some murder that had happened, and the murderer had gone to some place in Amravati. So this much was known to the inspector. So he goes there. But then he doesn't have any other indication how to find the murderer. And those days there was no CCTV or anything like that. So what this person does, this inspector, he prays. There is a Hanumanji temple there. So he goes and prays to Hanumanji that, hey Hanumanji, you also went to Lanka. You had no clue about where Sita was there, but still somehow you found her. Please help me, give me some indication of this murderer. Then only I will be able to catch him. A very, very meaningful prayer. Right? He connected it to the scripture and he prayed to Hanumanji. And he and the other cops were just sitting outside that temple. And it seems one girl was running in their direction and came very close to them. The small girl, some 6, 7-year-old girl, when this inspector saw the girl, something immediately clicked him. And he called her and he gave her some chocolates. And he told the other cops that let this girl go home, you follow this girl and see which house she goes. So the police did that. And then later, and Inamdar, this inspector, he goes to their house and knocks, and he catches the father of this girl, and he tells him point blank on his face, "You have only committed this murder," and that person accepts also. So somebody may say, "How did he get this clue?" The answer is, so Arvind Inamdar says, after I prayed to Hanumanji and they came out and they were sitting, when the small girl came running by me, by the police, I noticed that she was wearing very expensive dress. And in this village in Amravati district or whatever, people don't wear such expensive dresses. So the very fact that she was wearing such an expensive dress, and it was not that dress had nothing to do with that area. That means it was very clear that you don't get such costly dresses in such area, and neither people in that area can afford to wear such dresses. So he said, I immediately felt something very fishy looking at the small girl wearing such dress. And when we went to that house, so then that person, actually the father of the girl, admitted that he had only murdered. He said that actually I wanted to loot this particular person, but somehow accidentally I ended up killing him. And in this way he caught it. So he was later sharing that how our scriptures can give us some inspiration to find. He actually basically gives credit to Hanumanji because he prayed to him just before this clue hit his head. So this is again one example of how sometimes our scriptures, people actually in India have been inspired by our scriptures in their daily life. It's not just that it's only for transcendence. That is why I gave other examples also earlier, right? Like how Ram deals with his brother Bharat, how Hanumanji deals with Sita. All this basically shows that our scriptures are actually very realistic when it comes to life. And they teach very valuable lessons in that, how to live life. And that is actually the process. So as I said earlier, the process, one is of course the process of bhakti, the 64 items of bhakti, sadhu sangha, all those the 64 items, correct finding a spiritual master, surrendering to him, the five most potent processes. That is all sadhana, agreed. But that is adhyatmic sadhana. But there is this process of life itself, how to lead life, how to deal with your relations, which becomes very foundational. Now taking this discussion to the next point, which I wish to speak today briefly, and then we will take questions, is that there is this very famous atheistic person he is, but he writes very significant. His name is one Sam Harris. You know him, famous American, openly atheistic, but he always attacks the faith of the Abrahamic systems. So basically, he says that, hey, look, these people's faith is having no connection to life. So here there are two things. A point that we wish to discuss is whether your Shraddha or faith is based on life or whether life is based on Shraddha. If you carefully see the Abrahamic system, for them, their life is only based on Shraddha. So the Shraddha comes first, and they say that everything in life they will decide based on that faith only. Okay. So just to give some examples, they look at all relations also like that. I think once I gave this example, but I will tell nevertheless. There was one interview in an American television where they had a young radical Christian girl. Okay, so she was a very strong Christian. So while talking to her, the interviewer asked her, "Your parents." When they were talking about the parents, it became clear that the girl's parents are not into Christianity or anything. They are just normal people. So the interviewer asked her, "What happens to them?" So she said that without blinking an eyelid, she said that they will go to hell because they don't believe in Jesus. So this is what I mean by saying that life is based on Shraddha. So the Shraddha is first, and everything in life they look at it like that. Okay, so they will consider them heretic, or Islamic people consider them kafir. So the Shraddha is primary, and then they will decide their actions in life based on that. And they will not mind killing them or doing anything. Now you can contrast this Christian girl's interview with Prahlad Maharaj in the Srimad Bhagavatam, where when Prahlad Maharaj is asked by Narsimhadev, when Narsimhadev comes and kills, we know that Prahlad Maharaj is actually praying for the deliverance of his father. In fact, in his case, Hiranyakashipu actually actively tortured Prahlad as well. I'm sure in this girl's life, her parents didn't torture her or something. Just that they were normal people. They were not some fanatic Christians or something. But still, she had such a antagonistic feeling towards her parents that she said without blinking an eyelid that they will go to hell only when they die, and I'm not going to do anything about it, or I have nothing to do with that. But on the other hand, Prahlad Maharaj, we see he prays to Lord Narsimhadev that please deliver my father. And then Narsimhadev guarantees, he says, don't worry, so many generations are already delivered. He tells him that please do the Shraddha ceremony for your father. So, the simple example, we see that life comes first. Shraddha is based on top of that. So that's why. So I'll tell you how this basically solves a lot of issues. If you see the Western world, their faith, because it was very radical and against life, there was always challenges because life was being dismantled by their faith. Correct, like even between the faith and science. If you see from the 15th century, that entire conflict in the Western world between religion and science is because they had accepted their faith as primary and made life on top of that. Okay, earth is flat, whatever, God created man from the dust of the earth 6,000 years ago. Very literally, they took all these and they refused to budge from these statements. But when the scientific, intelligent people they started finding answers, they found that no, it doesn't. Life is not agreeing with these systems. So then there was a disagreement, and the church and the state actually separated, and this whole thing about secularism came up. Actually, in India, if you see in our Shastra, we are not so much against science itself. As in, this Pratyaksha Anumana has a great amount of validity. So sometimes we as devotees unnecessarily bring that animosity towards science too much in our talks, which is actually not necessary because the Indian system traditionally doesn't go against life like the Western system does. Okay, the Indian system is based on Jivana. That means like, no, 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 come back to this verse of Bhagavad Gita. What is Krishna saying? Jitatmana prasantasya paramatma samantata. What does this mean? When your mind is prasanti, you have achieved the super soul, Krishna saying. You have achieved God. Okay. It's such a big statement. We generally feel that when you achieve God, then your mind will become peaceful. Where he says that no, one who has conquered the mind, the super soul is achieved. He has already reached there. That's things like that. Right. It basically goes to show that when in life, when your anubhava in life is in line with the life of yoga, as I discussed earlier, then Shraddha becomes very, very natural. You don't have to force a person to believe in something. Okay, so one devotee was sharing recently that in Urli Kanchan, there is one naturopathy center run by some people. They run on certain principles of Ayurveda. So in Ayurveda, in Ashtanga Hridaya, there is a whole chapter of Dinacharya about your schedule and what you eat and all that. So it seems people who go there, depending on whatever disease they have, they are given a lifestyle. Okay, and that lifestyle looks very austere. Basically, they control their eating a lot. So one devotee who went there was saying that he was allowed only one chapati in the afternoon with one bowl of sabji, one bowl of dal, and in the evening and some chutney, and in the evening 5:30, two bowls of khichdi with one bowl of sabji. And in the middle, they would give some juices according to his whatever problem he had 200 ml anar juice, 200 ml lemon juice, water, like that. And he was saying that many people, when they live like that, when you live according to that dinacharya, immediately your body starts becoming very light. And of course, there is medication as well. So there is a treatment as well besides all this. But dinacharya is given a lot of focus. Right? If you see in our allopathy, we generally they don't emphasize so much on dinacharya. They just give their medicines and they expect that. Yeah, it's like the medicine will be attacked, whatever disease is there in the body, and it will repair it. And they don't emphasize so much on lifestyle. But he was telling that in Ayurveda, this is considered extremely important because when you live your life properly, then automatically your body becomes very good, and when the body becomes very good and light, then immediately he was saying that even chanting everything was so good because all the pain starts disappearing. You can sit erect nicely, correct? You can do everything. Now, if you carefully see because the body is the primary reference point for everybody in the world. That's why Krishna also says Yukta Ahara Viharasya Yukta Chestasya Karmasya. So there was one person, one devotee only whom we knew. His health is very, very bad and in crisis. So he says that at very senior person, but not many people to take care of him, etc. Like in the Western world, it typically happens. Right? There's nobody to take care. In India, there are a lot of people to take care of him. This person was sharing, it seems, that he's feeling very bad, that sometimes he feels that he should commit suicide. And he felt that such a thought itself is wrong, but what to do? I'm feeling like that. Okay, so this is very natural. One shouldn't feel that, "Arey, how he is feeling like that," because the reference point is always the body and life. When that is not going well, one will feel, "Arey, to hell with everything here. I don't want to live only in this world." Correct. One actually loses, and at that point of time, one starts losing his faith also. In a sense, he starts feeling that, why I'm not being protected, things like that, or even others feel like that. So this is why Jivana or life is considered primary, and all these things come in life only. How you lead your life, how you control your mind, how you deal with the people around you, and so on. And anybody in life, when they fail or when things don't go well, they automatically feel that it's better to die. Like we see that in the Ramayana also. I gave that example earlier, right? Like Hanumanji. When he cannot find Sita, he actually starts sitting and thinking that, "Arey, what is the use if I don't find Sita and go? Then Sugri will die, he will die, Ram will die, Lakshman will die, Bharat will die." If you see the entire conversation which Hanuman is having, of course, with himself in his mind, it seems very negative or pessimistic. Somebody will say, "Arey, why this person is thinking like that?" See, that is the beauty of Valmiki Ramayana. He's showing us life. He's not only showing that, "Oh, Hanuman is a big hero who jumped over the ocean." He's showing that weakness also. There is the human weakness. In life, when things don't succeed, when you don't do well in life, you immediately start questioning everything. Your own existence you question. Forget the big terms like faith and love and all that. You feel that, "Arey, it's better to die here. What is the use of living like this?" It's so natural. I mean, if you think about it carefully, it is a very natural human psychology which Valmiki ji is bringing out there. He's not simply saying that, "Oh, Hanuman, even if nothing was happening, still he was not affected at all." No, no, very, very realistic, very real portrayal of a particular personality. Correct? So that is again what this sixth chapter is talking here, right? It is talking about the yoga marga, which will ensure that your life is stable, your life is not disoriented, your body, your mind, your relations, they are stable. When that thing happens, then actually asli shava padaratam pinastumam adarshan and all that you can honestly pray from your heart. Because when in ordinary, okay, so the point here which I want to say is, when in our ordinary existence, when we experience regularity, then the extraordinary becomes possible. When in the ordinary life things are all chaos, then the extraordinary doesn't come only. So the life is the ordinary part of it, and our Shraddha is the extraordinary that sits on top of that. Just to give a mundane example, like we see these cricketers also, we see that when they play in foreign countries, when they play in their home pitch, generally most teams tend to do well. Why? Because they get that confidence, they get that encouragement, and when the encouragement they get from their home team and from the supporters, etc., they tend to do very well because they're able to achieve the extraordinary. Like we see, I mean, if you see Indian cricket team, their performance in India, I mean, rarely they get defeated in test matches in India. Test series, they'd never get. On the other hand, when they go to New Zealand or this England and all that, very often they get defeated. Nowadays, of course, they are succeeding a bit in places like Australia. That's also because a lot of Indians are there in the audience. So sometimes they are feeling that also like their home pitch only. The point here is that so when in the regular, when the normal life is going well and you have a confidence in that in life, then any extraordinary becomes achievable. And faith is extraordinary. Right? Faith in God, deeply aspiring to reach Him. These are all extraordinary emotions in a person's heart. That cannot come at the cost of canceling what you see in life around. And the beauty of Sanatana Dharma, as I said, is that it doesn't cancel life around you in order to achieve the extraordinary faith in God. Okay, it does not. It doesn't create these artificial conflicts, unlike the Western system, which of religions, the Abrahamic faiths, which create something like that. Correct. So see here that is not at all done. Okay. On the other hand, as I was saying earlier, so the platform is consistency, stability, and so on. If you remove all that, then you feel I don't want to live, and you basically lose faith in it. You feel completely hopeless in life. Everybody feels like that, and there is nothing too wrong about that as well. Like I gave so many examples. Okay, so these are two things which I wanted to discuss today. I'll just recap quickly, and then maybe we can take some questions. So there's one more point here, last one. That's why if you see in our Shastra also, when there are conversations between great devotees, they are very, very realistic about all aspects of life. Just like when Ram meets Bharata in Chitrakoot, he says that I hope you are not allowing your dharma to destroy your artha. Okay, he's asking like that. Even Narad Muni asked similar questions to Yudhishthira. So the whole thing about Sanatana Dharma is to bring that reconciliation between life, the process of life, how you live life, how you earn money, how you stay with your family, everything, and achieving Adhyatma. And if the first thing is done well, so this is again important in terms of raising children, because if you remember, I was making this point on the group as well that when you're raising your kids, it is the process which is emphasized. See, purpose is something very deep rooted. A person has to feel that. I always feel that small children, when we tell them about purpose of life, they have not understood the gravity of that. They say, okay, I also want to be pure devotee of Krishna, but they have not understood anything what they are saying. They have not understood what it means to be devotee of Krishna. They have not understood challenges of life. They have not understood what are anarthas when they come up. So many things they have not yet understood. They just say, make that statement. Very innocently they make that. But it is about the process of life which gives them that solid background. And then when the purpose has to hit your heart yourself. You have to be personally convinced about purpose. Even if somebody preaches to us, ultimately one has to take that very seriously oneself from the purpose of life. Just by somebody telling, nothing much is going to happen. We have to have that internal faith that yes, this is what I want to do. And when that comes, if your process of life has been good, as I was telling you, the life has been good, Jitatmana Prashantasya, then Paramatma Samahita, then it becomes very easy. This is the significance of the 6th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. Correct? Yeah. So I will stop here. If any questions, I'll let you. Anybody with any questions?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Yes, no, go ahead.
Anush, Prabhu. Actually, I'm like the question is not actually contradicting to what you're saying. I'm like, I agree with it. But only thing which I say think is that um, if somebody is, before coming to Krishna consciousness, he is very much, nicely situated and he's following all the principles nicely. Then he may be at a situation where he is like in a sattvic mode of life and he may not be facing so many problems. So in that way, the Krishna consciousness may not be very appealing for him. For him, living a sattvic life and doing good for people, that would be the primary focus. Just a,
Understood, understood. So it's actually not always necessary. Only one way which people come to Krishna is when they are in distress. It's not really necessary that people have to be in a big crisis in life and they have to be kicked. Sometimes we preach like that, material nature has to kick you and only then you will come to Krishna and all that. It's not always necessary like that. You could be having a very harmonious life and in fact you may find it very easy. Because this material nature kicking, this keeps changing also. And later material nature may stop kicking. Then what happens? So the point is, while material misery may be an impetus for some people, like Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita 7.16, to come to him, Artho Jignasurartharthi, that verse. But it is not like that. In fact, those who are more stable in life, they have a much higher chance of being steady in whatever they do, right? Rather than those who came due to a major trauma or something like that, because their samskaras are much more stable. And see, if you see even statistically, Prabhuji, most, if you see in history, in Indian history, the number of Brahmin born people who took to Krishna consciousness has always been very high. In most sampradayas, if you see, has been very high. Why? Because they come with that, right? There is an intellect also. There is a stability because of their lifestyle, processed by and
Yes.
large within their home. If you see, whether it is Bengal,
Yes, true.
whether it is whether it is Kannada, whether it is Telugu, Tamil, if you see statistically, I'm talking statistically. So because process is correct. Eating style. If you see Maharashtra also, if you go to Maharashtra Brahmin house to eat, how they will serve things, quarter chapati they will give, they will give little servings. Very sattvic food it is, which actually activates the whole system. Correct. So this is there. So statistically, it is actually not so true that people whose lives are orderly and harmonious, they will not come. No, it's not like that. They, in fact, they come. They come also, and they remain very steady also without much trouble. Yeah. Just that it
Yes.
must be a very thrilling, adventurous story. Like someone, was drunk and he got a guitar and night he read it and next day morning he joined and all that. It may not sound so thrilling. It may seem very ordinary, but statistically, that is how it is. Make sense? Yeah.
Sure. But I'm like, we can say that, I mean, like, it may be a little impetus, but long term,
Yes, yes,
I'm
yes.
like, it will not help much.
Anybody else with any other comment or question? Anyone else? Okay, I think we'll stop here. Thank you very much. La Prabhupada ki jai. Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai.
Thank you, bro.